On this episode of Big Boys Don't Cry, we discuss the film Music and Lyrics. You don't have to have seen the film to enjoy the podcast, but if you do proceed and listen without having seen it, just be aware that we may talk about the plot and there may be light spoilers. Enjoy. Music and lyrics, those are the things that make a song, yeah.
Are you music or are you lyrics?
Well, one of us has to be music, one of us has to be lyrics. I guess I'm gonna be music. Or did you want to be music? I'll fight you for it.
No, that's fine. I'll be lyrics.
Good. I feel like you're good with words, and I'm good at making noises.
I'm well good at the word thing.
Yeah. A proper wordsmith. Or a wordsworth.
Yes, exactly. A wordsmith. I love good lyrics and I love bad lyrics. What song has your favourite lyrics?
Oh, that's a really, really good question, actually. I don't know, because I feel like a lot of people listen to a song and they're sort of like the lyrics are ingrained into their brain instantly, but I'm not like that. I sort of take a few. Well, sometimes you listen to a song that you've listened over and over, and you hear a new lyric. Do you find that like the lyrics don't go in right away? And obviously it depends on who's singing, but yeah, I think what I'm saying is that Eddie Vedder is my favourite lyricist because you have to listen to his songs 100 times to know what just the first five words are.
Yeah, it's 100 listens in and you get the gist of what's being talked about.
Yeah. How about you?
See, for me, I like a good lyricist, and obviously you've got some great ones out there. But for me, I think the most evocative lyrics to any song is The Chauffeur by Duran Duran, which is a bit of it's a very odd song. It's not the first song that people think of when they think of Duran Duran either, but it's got these incredible, weird, sleazy lyrics to it, which are just wonderful. And I like that kind of. Some people really like down to earth lyricists, like Arctic Monkeys guy.
Come on, Mardy Bum.
And people really love that kind of thing sometimes, or. The Streets was another one when we were younger that people were talking about the quality of that lyrics and how it was really relatable. But I prefer mine to have quite a sort of almost inscrutable feel to them. And I like it when there's that kind of poetic element around it where you can read into it various different meanings. And that's what I look for in lyrics.
Yeah, me too. I think that's a fair assessment. I do like the sort of grubby, down to earth stuff. But there's a point where it just tips into being kind of absurdly sort of, I'm just talking about my day now, which is what people do on YouTube and make lots of money. So maybe they're onto something.
Yes, but it's, for me at least, I don't care for that kind of, you've got to be a very specific kind of musician to pull that off well. And I think some of Arctic Monkey stuff works. Some other people I think don't. It really varies from artist to artist, and I think it all comes down to having a cohesive feel to your music, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And, to be fair, on our other show, Pod Durst, where we talk about new metal, we've actually given a lot of time to the lyrics of people like Fred Durst. You can't say that he's not consistent, right? Or that the lyrics to a song like Break Stuff don't do exactly what you want it to do, right?
Exactly. Some people, they can be that blunt and direct and it really fits in well with the music they're doing. Like Limp Bizkit, lyrical genius Fred Durst.
Yeah. Give me stuff to break.
Yeah, give me something to break.
Oh, it's something to break,
about your
not stuff.
effing face.
I always thought it was give me stuff to break.
What about Weezer? That I think Rivers Cuomo goes between the sublime and the ridiculous. Some of the lyrics to Weezer songs are wonderful, but then you also have songs like Where's My Sex?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Or Beverly Hills, which are just big old dumb anthems.
Beverly Hills is good though. Where's My Sex is bad.
Beverly Hills is a good song,
it's a banger.
but the lyrics aren't necessarily the most the most emotional, thought-provoking thing in the world.
No. But ultimately, it's about how, we're all living in the gutter, but some of us are looking up at the stars. And the stars in this case are celebs who live in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Weezer's one of those weird examples, isn't it? Where I think, you've got some truly wonderful songs, don't you? And some truly wonderful lyrics.
Yeah, the Blue album, the first few albums especially, I think are really, really good and really evocative and really emotional in a way that you don't necessarily think of the sort of nerdy college rock that Weezer are. Or maybe you just think that they did that one song with the Happy Days video about Buddy Holly, or that they did a song, got my arse wipe, got my big cheese, got my hash pipe. But there's some real gems there.
Yeah, no, there are. Sweater Song is dope.
Yeah. Again, it's like 3 lines, but it's so evocative.
Yeah, and that's another sort of thing of it can really work. It doesn't have to be over the top, and you've also got people like Nine Inch Nails, which the lyrics to Hurt, this very iconic song.
Yeah.
And they've got quite a lot of other tracks that have some really brilliant lyrics. Equally ones that are maybe quite direct, like March of the Pigs or Heresy, which are very, very on the nose and blunt about their messaging, but work incredibly well. But then you've also got songs like Getting Smaller by Nine Inch Nails, which is one of their album tracks, and one of the lyrics, which genuinely is some of the worst lyrics and funniest lyrics I've ever heard in my life. You've got Trent Reznor, Oscar winner Trent Reznor, Golden Globe winner
Oscar
Trent Reznor.
winner.
Yeah, they won the Oscar for Social Network.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Best soundtrack for Social Network.
For their cover of The Hall of the Mountain King.
Exactly. The lyrics to that song include the line, "I've got my arms a flip, flop, flip. I got my head on a spring." It's just beautiful.
That sounds like something from a kid's TV show.
Yeah. There's some wonderful Nine Inch Nails lyrics out there. Some stuff that's truly emotional and powerful, some stuff that's really guttural and interesting, and then I got my arms a flip flop flip flop flip.
See, I've been listening to a lot of power metal recently, which is literally no song is really distinguishable from another one, apart from maybe slightly faster or slower, or might have a bit more harmonized guitars, but the lyrics are all the same. Our souls are on the wind, some dragons and kings and stuff, our spirits will go on, we're running through fire and stuff,
Valhalla gets several mentions.
Valhalla, yeah, we're in a valley of the damned, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
There's something comforting about the consistency of it.
Yeah, what more can you ask for?
Yeah.
What more can you ask for?
But I remembered that probably my favourite lyricist of all time is John K. Samson, who is the frontman of the Weakerthans. You ever a fan?
Oh yes, yeah. I don't mind the Weakerthans. They're not one of my favourite bands, but that's because it's not necessarily a genre that I listen to horrible industrial music.
Soft Canadian indie rock.
Yeah, so soft Canadian indie rock is something that I'll put on, but it's never gonna get me super excited.
Yeah, he's a real poet.
They are a good band.
And I have a book of his lyrics and poems, and obviously it's got basically all of the lyrics from their albums, and then some kind of extra ones that were never recorded as songs but that he put out as poems, and you read them next to each other and there's no difference between them really. And that poetic quality really shines through, and he's a great sort of observational lyricist as well, but also someone who's really good at putting great lines together on all sorts of themes and all sorts of topics as well. He's a genius. He released a song last year, and the opening line was, "I manage my fantasy baseball team better than I manage my anger these days." And it's all about being angry at the news and stuff. It's
and of course really you like it because baseball.
Yeah, you just need to mention baseball, and
that's sold. As far as you got baseball. That does remind me though of another lyricist that I really love is Saul Williams, hip hop artist and poet and spoken word artist, who's done loads of really interesting stuff over the years, released books of poetry as well. And really talks about complex themes in a very interesting way. There's no one quite like him out there.
Yeah, that ability, as you say, to distill complex things and bring them to life and make them accessible through the medium of song is a real gift. And that's why some people need lyricists. Some people like Elton John, he can't do it. He's no good with the words.
Exactly.
He needs another guy.
For all of its sins, there's a very funny bit in South Park. Some of South Park is very funny. Some bits are not. Some bits are just deliberately offensive for no reason. But there is a wonderful joke where Chef, before Isaac Hayes left South Park, there's an episode that's all around Chef, and it shows him meeting Elton John, and Elton John's playing a song in a dingy bar, and he sings a song where he's written the lyrics for, and he goes, "Hey ho, you're my cheddar cheese girl, you smell real good and you go well with wine." And then obviously Chef is the one who says, "Hey, I mean, you're a great singer and a great pianist, but why don't you hire someone to write lyrics for you?" And that is the origin of Elton John. You should believe that over Rocket Man,
which is very good. Actually, we talk about.
I love Rocket Man. Yeah, we should talk about that at some point. It's a wonderful film. But yeah, that every so often that song will get in my head, and I'll be thinking, "God damn, that's a brilliant song."
You know which one from South Park always gets in my head? I'm a motherfucking gay fish. So stupid, but so good.
The Imagination Land song as well is really good. They've got a real talent for musical moments.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's an episode where they trick Kanye West into saying that he likes to put fish sticks in his mouth. But they say sticks like dicks. That's the joke.
Yeah,
it's very puerile.
Do you like fish sticks? And if you say yes, it's like, what are you, a gay fish? And then Kanye West gets very annoyed at that. Yep. There's also the one where also I think it's a follow-up episode with Kanye West in where he's getting angry at people referring to Kim Kardashian as a hobbit, and he sings a song that goes, "My girl ain't no hobbit. Please tell me I didn't marry no hobbit."
Oh dear.
So South Park, stop with the transphobia and being scared of annoying right-wing Trump fans, which is what you've been doing for the last few seasons when you've been terrified of talking about politics again. And keep doing silly songs, please.
That's very bad. I've never watched loads of it. I just dipped in here and there.
Yeah, they did lots of stuff in the run up to Trump getting elected, and then were suspiciously quiet after that on political things. And they said, "Oh, there's nothing we can do that will be as, we kind of don't know what to do with it." Well, make fun of him. You're supposed to be satirists.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of your show. Why don't you actually go and make fun of Donald Trump? Is it because you're worried about upsetting your audience by doing that? I think it might be.
Yep.
So yeah, for people who swear a lot and are like, free speech, maybe go and exercise that free speech to do something dangerous again, instead of just making fun of minorities, you useless fucks.
Yeah. Under the guise of defending people's right to say anything they want, even if it's hurtful to people, even hate speech.
Yeah.
It's just that's kind of the satirists end up going one of two ways, don't they? They end up becoming eating themselves and becoming someone said I can't say this and now I'm right wing. Or they, mature and then realise that yes, it's important to push boundaries, but that also maybe no hate speech.
Yeah, and I think South Park, they're those the guys behind South Park are very much in that centrist mindset of we will make fun of everyone equally, but actually what that boils down to is not making fun of everyone equally. And not necessarily giving in to pressure, but preempting pressure from certain large groups and kind of steering away from that.
Yeah.
Which is always disappointing to see. If you are going to speak truth to power, which is what people always say about free speech people, like Piers Morgan, everyone was like, Piers Morgan, people were saying, he stormed off in a little tantrum because someone finally called him out on his bullshit, and then he quit the show, and people were saying, oh, but he spoke truth to power. No, he didn't. When did he ever properly speak truth to power? He was occasionally right on issues like COVID.
Yeah. Sometimes he was a bit hard on Matt Hancock when he was crying.
guess what? Guess what? That's what every journalist should be doing. That shouldn't be a sign of a great journalist. That should be a baseline. You're meant to ask politicians the hard questions as a baseline.
Yeah.
Don't laud people for doing the bare minimum that their job entails.
Yeah. Anyway, he's gone to the Idiot channel, to British Fox News. So
he's going to Gammon News Network.
Gammon News Network. Speaking of Gammon, we'll get onto the film soon. Don't worry. But speaking of Gammon, did you know that UKIP's mayoral candidate for the London mayoral London mayoral election, Jesus Christ, is called Peter Gammons?
I did know this. It makes me laugh every time I see it, because when it comes up in the opinion polls, it's like Gammons 2%.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
But the good news is that Lawrence Fox and the Reclaim Party are on literally 0%.
That doesn't surprise me, to be honest. Do you get to vote in the mayoral elections where you are, or you're outside?
We're not in London anymore.
Sure. I wasn't sure how far out it went. That's a shame. You couldn't go and give your vote to Sean Bailey, who needs every vote he can.
The guy who thinks that homeless people can save up for a house deposit, among other things.
A real winner.
Yeah.
A real winner.
Lovely guy.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. Obviously Gammons is a very funny name for a UKIP politician, but their leader used to literally be called Dick Brain, didn't it?
Yep.
Which again, wonderful.
And
you
Pat
almost
Mountain.
Think oh yeah. And there is another crude, funny joke name for another UKIP candidate, but I can't think of it off the name of my head. But it almost makes you think that UKIP is actually
Paul
just
Nuttall.
I mean, that one is
Does
good.
He like to nut at all?
I was thinking more nutter as an ableist slur.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's it almost makes you think that UKIP is like an art project that's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, it was someone's like university like Dadaist drama thing that just got out of hand.
It's just got completely out of hand, and it's become a monster of its own right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, shall we start talking about the movie now?
Yeah, there's no need to talk about that. Music and lyrics. I was going to segue into it from when you were talking about the Isaac Hayes bit on South Park, saying that was the origin of Elton John. I was going to say that was also the origin of the film Music and Lyrics, but it wasn't.
No. If only.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you had seen this movie before?
Yes, I had. Had you?
I had not. This is my first journey into music and lyrics.
Thought I had seen it before, but a lot of it was unfamiliar to me. So I think maybe I once walked in the room while my wife was watching it, walked out and did the washing up and came back, or something, as like it was on in the background maybe. So it was almost as if I was watching it for the first time, but some of it was familiar to me. I think I had seen the opening montage of Hugh Grant doing the 80s pop thing before and thought, oh, that's funny, it's Hugh Grant doing that thing. That was definitely familiar to me, but some of the story and that wasn't. But that might just be because the story bit of it is quite thin, but all of that peripheral stuff, all the touches that make it what it is, are the things you remember about it, right?
Yeah, it's a very basic film, which was kind of refreshing to watch. In that it doesn't really do a lot. It's very intimate and insular. They spend a lot of time at a piano in his apartment writing a song.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite nice. There's not all of these big bombastic moments in it. It's much more character focused, which I think is good. It would be nice to have more character in the character focus, I would say. But it's a movie that doesn't set out to be this huge bombastic movie. And that's actually quite nice.
No, it's actually quite a simple story, and it happens over the course of only about a week, doesn't it? Which is quite a good setup, I think, for keeping things simple when you're putting this kind of film together. It's not some epic thing over time. It's just these two people had an interesting week, and then they're in love now. Here you go.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It doesn't overdo it, which is good. And Hugh Grant is charming.
Hugh Grant plays Hugh Grant in this film.
He's Hugh Grant, but this time he's singer Hugh Grant, who used to be a member of a band called Pop, very obviously based off Wham.
Yeah.
Clearly Wham influenced. And their song that gets played a couple of times is a bit of a banger, isn't it?
Yeah.
The made up pop song.
I'd say it's about number 5 or 6 in my rotation of bangers at the moment, somewhere beneath the Gay Fish song from South Park.
Above Cheddar Cheese Girl.
Yeah. But did you notice that the music was by Adam Schlesinger?
I did not know, but he's one of your friends.
Yeah,
isn't he?
I talked about him on the show before, friend of the show. God rest his soul. He died of COVID last year. I think I talked about it at the time. Yeah, but he's a guy who he did the theme song to That Thing You Do, which I have never seen. Have you seen that?
No, I don't think I have.
Which is, I think it was Tom Hanks' directorial debut in the 90s, and Tom Hanks wrote and directed it. And I can't really even remember what it's about, but it seems like the kind of thing that we would like. So I think we should get onto that at some point. But he did the song for that. But he was also a member of Fountains of Wayne, who is, one of my favourite bands. And his CV is extremely impressive of all the musical stuff that he's been involved in. But one of my particular favourites was the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, from which he worked on a lot of the songs. And it's a sitcom that's really unique, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and we were actually thinking me and my wife, we watched it together, and it's like a special show for us. We were thinking we were going to rewatch it because we're in need of something uplifting, and we're almost done with our rewatch of Parks and Recreation. So we were thinking of rewatching that, and he did a lot of the songs from that are really, really funny, but also that really, really fit the show. And I feel like he was a real genius of producing songs that are funny and uplifting and engaging, but that really fit whatever he was making them for. And he was just a real genius, and I'm still really, really sad that he's dead.
No, it is really sad. It's Fountains of Wayne, obviously known for that one song, but really their back catalogue is far superior to the song that everyone knows them for.
Yeah, and I think Stacey's Mum is a good song. It's a fun
jam. Yeah. It's a little banger.
But it's not their best song by any means. And I think a lot of their songs are co-written, obviously, with their frontman, Chris Collingwood, who's a real legend and has done a lot of interesting other stuff as well. He releases sort of solo-ish music under the name Look Park, which is really good as well and well worth checking out. But yeah, Fountains of Wayne, they're sort of New Jersey power pop, and again, leaning towards that kind of soft indie rock poetry that I was talking about earlier with John K. Samson. I think Chris Collingwood has quite a lot of that quality to it as well, of being really, really a good observational lyricist about sort of life and the things that make life poetic. But there's also some goofy songs in there as well, so I appreciate that. But yeah, Adam Schlesinger did songs for Ice Age Continental Drift, songs performed by Jennifer Lopez and Peter Dinklage, music and lyrics Shallow Hal, which we keep talking about, we need to get around to that one as well. Scary Movie, Josie and the Pussycats, Art School Confidential, Fever Pitch, and lots of others. But those are some of the highlights of films that he's been involved in, and loads of TV as well. So the man is a genius, and I think with this kind of film, music and lyrics, that's exactly the person you need to write the sort of centerpiece songs. Because if that opening montage with that Hugh Grant song, if that song is not good and doesn't work, this whole film is moot.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You need, and there is a versatility, isn't there, to the style of music that's played throughout this film, but it all comes back around to clearly coming from a similar voice. So you've got all of these various songs, but you can tell that they're by the same songwriter, which is exactly what you needed to showcase the lead character's sort of musical knowledge and ability, because you're rooting for Hugh Grant because it makes it very clear about the limitations and of who he is. So he's someone who's accepted his inability to write lyrics, but also accepted his inability to move on from where he was before, and instead to continue churning out what he's been doing in this kind of stagnant place. And that kind of comes across in the song that they write. But also, again, in that through road through the various other things that happen. So you've got a couple of his songs in there that you both played at the end in different formats, and it all feels like it's by the same songwriter, doesn't it? Which I think was really important to make this film work.
Yeah, especially for the idea of having a coherent character based around the idea of having been a musician. It would have looked completely fake without it. Even with Hugh Grant doing his Hugh Grant thing, where he was perfectly at the age to be playing a washed-up musician, which I think was a smart move. It doesn't work unless you actually get that bit of him appearing at the kind of school reunion gig in a Hilton hotel that he does now, where the song is clearly a rip-off of Careless Whisper.
Yes, yeah, it is just Careless Whisper.
And he's doing that sort of slow, bum-shaking, hip-moving dance to it, and then he has to sit down because he's tired. That was very funny. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he hurts his hip, doesn't he? Because he does a little low lunge, and then he has to go and sit down because his hip's hurting. Yeah. It's just brilliant.
But I know you're a big fan of Careless Whisper, so I hope you appreciated that one.
I did appreciate it. I was like, oh yes, bit of fake Careless Whisper.
Yeah, it had the soprano sax.
Yes, yeah, it did. What more can you ask for?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think Hugh Grant's character is Hugh Grant, but it works well for a Hugh Grant role, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And if you think about who else could have done it, really, it would have been a very different film with anyone else. And I'm sure there are any number of people of Hugh Grant's age and stature who would have fit the bill, but it feels like his film, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. It really fits him, and the sort of age of the main character fits who he is as well. And yeah, it just works quite well. And then that allows him to then bounce off Drew Barrymore very well, who has a very different mindset, has a different difficult relationship with art. So they personify the music and the lyrics is the two things. And he's great at writing these memorable tunes, but is cynical about the industry, as you should be. It is a cynical industry, music. And then she comes from the world of words and understands the power of words, but also has this backstory, which I think is not particularly well developed, but I like the fact that the sort of villain of the piece is a shithole literary fiction writer.
Yeah, and creative writing teacher, because there are actually a lot of those about, and they don't get a lot of airtime in films. Not that we're speaking from experience.
Yeah, it's yeah, no, our teachers were fine, but
yeah, our teachers were great.
But talking in general about literary fiction authors who are shitbags, it's a particularly virulent strain of arsehole, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get those literary fiction authors who are just complete bastards, and it's nice to see someone like that pinpointed in a movie as just, this person's a shitbag, and it doesn't matter that his book has sold loads of copies because he's a horrible bastard who you should hate. And I liked that, and I liked that scene where he basically gaslit her in real time about their relationship. But I wish there'd been more in this film about her gaining her independence from that thought process.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it feels like all of the development of her character is only really in service to his character and his journey, right? Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
And that's a problem with a lot of these kind of films, where it's just very much too much centered on the male character.
Yeah. And I feel like it nearly gets there. It has that one scene, but it really needed that to be delved into deeper. Because all it gets is a during credits sequence where it explains, his film didn't do very well. And that's it. And you're like, you want a comeuppance for someone like that. And you want there to be that catharsis for her. And she never gets that catharsis.
No. The credit sequence should have just been a loop of her kicking him in the balls.
Yeah, definitely. I would have 100% preferred that.
But he was good, that guy. Who's that guy?
Yeah,
I recognised him.
Yeah,
Campbell
douchebag
Scott. Is that the guy?
But yeah, he did just. But yeah, you wanted a little bit more of that. You wanted a little bit more development of her character, but also Hugh Grant's character doesn't really get that much development either. And it's not exactly a short. It's not exactly a short movie. This one. It's not the longest film that we've watched for this podcast, but
no. But again, it's in that weird place where it's probably longer than it needed to be, but still doesn't really get to enough development for most of the characters.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So it needed a little bit something extra. It's quite a safe film, which I guess it's part of the issue with Mark Lawrence's other work as well. So we watched we might have watched more than one of his movies on this podcast actually, but he
Miss Congeniality. We did that, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. So he wrote Miss Congeniality, and then actually no, we might have only done Miss Congeniality, but there's other movies that we will no doubt talk about at some point. So 2 Weeks Notice is one that I'm sure we will cover. Did you hear about the Morgans as well? There's another one that I expect us to cover at some point because it is apparently a bit of a shit piece.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so it's about people who it's Hugh Grant and Sarah Jessica Parker, and they're in the witness protection program, and they get sent to some small town place, and apparently it's truly awful, which intrigues me. I'd like to see it at some point.
Okay. Conceptually, I don't object to that.
No. But yeah, it's all of the movies of his that I've seen are all very, very structured, very safe romantic comedies that don't really take those risks and don't really steer away from the structure of a rom-com that you're expecting. And I think music and lyrics really falls into that category, where they unexpected duo come together, gain an understanding together, start falling in love, they have the sexy sex, and then for some reason they fall apart, but then they all come together at the end with a big emotional moment which glosses over all of the problems.
Yeah. But what this has that all of the similar films like that don't have is a young pop star who's sort of a bit like Shakira, who has like sexy Buddhist guys dancing in her music videos.
Yes, yeah. And this was the debut of an actor who I absolutely love, Hayley Bennett. So this was, I think, her first movie role. And she's brilliant. I don't know if you've seen anything else that she's been in.
I have seen The Girl on the Train, which she was in. I thought she was very good in that.
Yeah. She is in a brilliant movie that came out last year called The Devil All the Time, which is an ensemble sort of period drama crime piece set in like post-war America, with everybody. It's got everybody in it. So it's got Bill Skarsgård, it's got Tom Holland, it's got Sebastian Stan, Riley Keough, Jason Clarke, Robert Pattinson.
Oh, all of your guys.
It's got literally everybody in Hollywood in it, and it's this wonderful thriller, really grim, really dark, but this excellent story, and she's in that and is excellent in that. And also in a great film called Swallow, which we'll have to talk about at some point, probably in Halloween month, because I feel like that's the closest place for it to sit. Where it's kind of a drama about her relationship with her husband, and she's pregnant, but then she's got this compulsion to eat dangerous objects.
Right. Okay.
And it's all about their control over her, what that does to her mindset, what that does to her compulsion, and whether they're helpful, whether they're deliberately trying to force her down a dangerous path. It's a great movie, really interesting, and her performance in that is incredible. So it was very odd seeing her turn up in this as this sort of a bad stereotype of a pop star, I suppose. And she brings a lot of humor to it, and I think it's very funny, but there's slight moments where I'm like, you're kind of pretending, this is a stupid blonde pop star woman.
Can we also just note that she's in a relationship with Joe Wright, the director, who is most famous for directing the shitpiece 2015 film Pan, of course.
Oh, really? Well then.
Which I've definitely seen.
Have you?
No. It looks awful.
That's the Hugh Jackman one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but she's brilliant, and it's really odd to see her at such an early point in her career. But it does bring I didn't necessarily like her character, and I thought it was a bit, maybe sexist is too strong a word, but I think there's it's a bit unsavory the way that it sort of goes, oh, this is a ditzy young blonde pop star. Of course she's not going to know what she's talking about. It's a bit like, not too sure about the depiction of her like this.
Yeah. It's very stereotypy, and this film was made in 2007, which is really a lifetime ago when you think about it.
It is a very long time ago. I was thinking, oh, Hugh Grant looks a bit old in this, and then realised, God, this is a long time ago, nearly 15 years ago now.
Which is why he's now playing old villains.
Yes, I don't know if you saw this, but Hugh Grant is going to be in the new Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Wait, rewind. There's a new Dungeons and Dragons movie.
There is a new Dungeons and Dragons movie. They're planning to release it next year. It is starring Chris Pine, I think is going to be like the lead.
He's going to be the dungeon. Hugh Grant's going to be the dragon.
Dungeon. One of the guys from that show that you love, Bridgerton, is going to be the other another main character.
Sexy Jane Austen.
So he'll be the dragon.
Okay.
And there's going to be a Dungeons and Dragons movie, and Hugh Grant's going to be in it.
He is 60 years old. I genuinely did not know that.
Oh man, I bet he still looks handsome though.
Of course he does.
But yeah, it's shaping up to be quite interesting. So the woman who plays the young girl in it is going to be in it as well. And Michelle Rodriguez is going to be in it too. So it's getting a pretty hefty cast so far.
I mean, Jeremy Irons will always be the iconic dungeon.
He will always be the iconic dungeon. You're right. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
We should watch the other Dungeons and Dragons film at some point. I feel like that's definitely a shit piece.
Oh, undoubtedly. Do you think it counts for this podcast? Is there enough romance?
I don't know. I'd have to do some research.
There is. I remember there being romance in it. I also remember that the lead is played by the guy who played the photographer in the Superman TV series. Do you remember the Lois and Clark TV series that was on when we were kids? With Dean Cain as Superman.
No.
So yeah, the lead in the Dungeons and Dragons movie played Jimmy Olsen in that. Yeah, like that is a strong lead actor to choose. Marlon Wayans is also in it.
Yeah.
Thora Birch and obviously Jeremy Irons.
That's a good cast, actually.
I mean, you use that in a different way. It could be an incredible cast.
Yeah, a good cast for a sort of early 2000s kind of film.
Yeah. Marlon Wayans, Thora Birch, and Jeremy Irons. I think that's a really good standing to put together a good movie.
They could have put together a good music and lyrics, couldn't they?
They really could have.
Marlon Wayans is sitting there at the piano, or would it be Jeremy Irons as the washed-up old guy? Is it funnier if it's actually like a young washed-up guy?
Yeah, I think a young washed-up guy would be good. And maybe we reverse it, and maybe Jeremy Irons is the lyricist and he's the flower man.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe he's like the pizza delivery guy, and he comes in and is like, "Hey, pepperoni for you," and then he's doing a little thing, and he's like, "I got your pepperoni pizza. Oh yes, I do, sir."
Marlon Wayans is like, "Hey, you sit down."
Yeah, you've got to sing me a song, Pizza Man.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, well, music and lyrics remake, but actually it's about a tender friendship between a youngish songwriter and an old man who delivers pizza.
And we'll give Jeremy Irons the proper time on his character to develop why he's delivering pizza, and does he really love pizza, and some stuff about the love of the pizza joint and whatever.
Yeah, he got blindsided by his love of pizza and has got stuck in this job because he just loves getting one free slice of pizza a day.
Maybe he used to run the pizza joint with his best friend and then they fell out and now his best friend runs the pizza joint next door and his son's coming back from college or whatever and there's going to be a pizza war.
Yeah, and they've got to write the theme tune to the advert that's going to be on to win over all of the custom.
Yeah, this definitely needs to tag itself onto the Little Italy universe.
Little Italy is such a... Man, that movie's going to stay with me, I think.
Yeah. That's a pizza shit piece.
Pizza shit piece.
A shit pizza.
Oh, no pizza shit, though. I think we've talked about this before, that there is no bad pizza.
Yeah. That's not a challenge, but yes, generally speaking. Don't, mail us bad pizza now, you weirdos.
Mail me bad pizza. I will eat it, and I will say, no, this is good pizza. Because all pizza's good pizza. You take a cream cracker, you put some tomato puree on it, and a slice of cheese. Still a good pizza.
You grill it until it's blackened.
Chuck it under the grill. Pop it in the microwave until it's a molten mess. Still a good pizza.
Which is like romantic comedies, right?
What? There's no bad romantic comedies?
Yeah.
No,
there are only ones that are less good.
I severely disagree with that statement. There are some terrible romantic comedies.
Yeah, but music and lyrics is like supermarket pizza, right? But maybe it's the nice one, you know? It's like the Tesco finest one. It's not the cheap one. It's where you're like, it's still a supermarket pizza, so this is never going to be as good as like a nice takeaway one or one you might get from an Italian restaurant or like a proper family-run pizza joint. But it might actually be okay on a Tuesday night, and you might feel a little bit fancy.
Yeah, it's a stuffed crust, isn't it? You go down the aisle, and you're like, oh, you know what? I feel like a pizza tonight. I don't feel like just a normal pizza. Let's go all in, and let's get a nice stuffed crust.
Yeah, and then you bite into the crust, and you're like, oh, it's stuffed. Here's another song. I didn't expect that. Now it's stuffed with Careless Whisper.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? One of the best things you can get is when you have a stuffed crust pizza, and often you'll get a stuffed crust pizza and it won't really taste of anything.
Yeah.
And that's always disappointing. But then sometimes you get the stuffed crust pizza and that stuffed crust tastes of something, and that's always the best thing. Where you're just like, dear God, a stuffed crust that's actually tasty.
They've used some actual real cheese in it instead of that rubbery. You know, sometimes you get a bit of rubbery cheese in a stuffed crust. That's not good, is it?
No. It's never good when that happens.
No.
So yeah. No. Give us more good stuffed crust pizzas. That's what you can send me. Send me a
please
bad
send
pizzas,
us those.
But also send us your stuffed crust pizzas.
We accept the challenge of eating the bad pizza.
Yeah, challenge accepted. I volunteer as tribute.
In these Hunger Games. Rob's very hungry and he needs pizza now.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I want pizza. Give me your pizza.
Maybe this whole show is just a ruse to get people to send us pizza. We spend nearly 200 episodes building up a fan base who like us enough and who are insane enough to send us pizza in the mail, and then we eat it.
Yeah, that's what we're slowly transitioning into. It's big boys eat pizza.
I genuinely would love to do that.
We could be a pizza review channel.
Yep. All the supermarket ones.
Each week, or maybe each fortnight, to avoid me just dying of too much pizza. Each fortnight, we go through a different pizza. So we can go through pizza from takeaways like Domino's or Pizza Hut. We can then go through supermarket ones as well. And yeah, we can do that. We can do it.
You can die of too much pizza. It's a very real threat.
It is. It is the number one killer of big boys who do podcasts.
Yep. It's well proven. So we've got to watch ourselves.
There's no science behind it. But I
think I've had enough of experts.
I think we've all had enough of experts.
Yeah. which is why it's refreshing to see someone who can't write lyrics in a film. He's not an
Yeah,
expert in
exactly.
anything, is he?
No, he can't do anything apart from play the piano nice.
Yeah, and come up with some nice melodies. And, you know, he can record a nice demo in his flat and then go and listen to it in a helicopter park on a Discman, which really dates it, doesn't it?
It really does. I like to think that it's just someone who loves retro stuff. And it's like, no, I'm going to listen to it on a Discman. You've recorded it and put it on a CD for me.
Yeah. Because at that point, the iPod was king, wasn't it? 2007.
Yeah, 2007. By that point, people had MP3 players. You know,
that was the point at which I was always carrying around my phone and my iPod at the same time, which was the problem that Steve Jobs wanted to solve when he created the iPhone. Yeah,
that is the only reason that the iPhone was invented. Was Steve Jobs was there and his trousers were too tight, and he's getting annoyed at having too many bulges in his pockets.
He could feel the iPod just tickling the bottom of his turtleneck, and he was like, "What the hell? I can't deal with this."
Yeah, exactly. It's that and we will forever love him for that. But yeah, I used to have a it wasn't an iPod. I had another MP3 player. And then you had your phone as well.
Yeah.
Strange days.
Imagine that.
Young whippersnappers.
Yeah.
No idea.
You don't know you're born.
Back in our day, we used to have two devices.
Back in our day, in 2007, films like Music and Lyrics were made on a budget of 40 million and made 145 million at the box office.
Back in my day.
Imagine that. That's crazy money.
Oh man, I wish I had $140 million.
Me too. You could buy a lot of pizza for that.
I could buy a lot of pizza for that.
But if they were making this kind of film now, this would be just kind of like one of those Netflix films, and it wouldn't be Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore, would it?
No, it would be Drew Hart and I can't think of
Michael Barrymore.
Michael Barrymore, yeah.
This feels like a very 2007 romantic comedy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's a pre-Bridesmaids rom-com, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think
that's how we divide things up, sort of before Paul Feig.
Because I do think, I don't want to overstate the importance of Bridesmaids, because I don't think it is a cultural touchstone in that way. But I think it showed a slight change in mindset towards female-centric movies.
Yeah.
Where you could go, you know what, we can put jokes into this that will make people laugh about grotesque things, and we can talk about adult subjects. And we can show people enjoying sex.
None of which are present in films like Music and Lyrics. And going back to what we said earlier about it being male centric, you're right that's a bit of a cultural touchstone for that, and that Drew Barrymore gives a fantastic performance and she's really, really engaging, but her character isn't given that development, even though she has quite a lot of screen time, and probably more screen time than a lot of similar characters who are just there to build up the male lead story. It still doesn't quite get there, does it?
No, that's a thing. It kind of, it just doesn't make it, does it? It just shuffles along, is quite content to give you the sort of heartwarming moments of togetherness, but it never really challenges you in any way, does it?
No.
And maybe that's what you're after. You might be after that.
Exactly. You don't go into a film like this expecting to be massively challenged or for it to turn your world upside down, do you? It's a nice film that you watch just to watch something. It's easy. This is for an easy evening, isn't it? It's not an evening where you're sitting down and you're going to go, I want to watch Parasite or
no. Have you watched Parasite yet
or something? No, I haven't.
Oh, I've
heard nothing but good things.
It is obscenely good. I love that movie. One of those things that really lives up to the hype.
That's great. I love that. And Bong Joon-ho is such a cool guy.
Oh yeah. Have you watched many of his movies?
Only Okja, I think. And there was a thing
Okay.
of his where it was like short films that I watched like years and years ago that was really good.
So you've not watched Snowpiercer?
No, again, heard nothing but good things about that.
Because that is extremely good. Yeah, that's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, he just comes across as a really fun and like really interesting guy
Oh yeah, definitely.
who's not afraid to laugh at himself, but also to poke fun at film and the industry in general. And, you know, talking about subtitles and people finally, you know, giving it an Oscar to a subtitled film in a very candid and funny way. You know, I appreciate that.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's great to see a movie like Parasite really being thought about as one of the best movies, you know, not just of the year but of the decade, of the millennium so far, because it's a really challenging, interesting movie that's also goes in unexpected places as well. You won't guess where the film's going when you start watching it, and I think it's so rare to get something like that. Which is brilliant. So yeah, go watch Music and Lyrics because it is a fun little movie. But also, if you've not seen Parasite yet, go watch Parasite.
Yeah, do.
That's my homework to our listeners and to you, Paddy.
Oh, you're setting me homework.
Yeah,
You're a harsh master.
So in terms of other movies that came out in 2007, it's a quite interesting year actually, because you had angry man movies like No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood.
Oh yeah. Gruff angry man. Gruff man movies.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Gruff man movies that are there to make you think, or not, in the case of No Country for Old Men, which I stand by being a really overrated film.
Yeah.
Come at me, internet. I've got no time for No Country for Old Men.
It's got a very good soundtrack.
Yeah, but I don't like it anywhere near as much as other people do. But you've got Ratatouille as well.
Never seen it.
You've not seen Ratatouille?
No. Is it Disney or Pixar?
It's a Pixar.
I think it's the only Pixar film I haven't seen.
Jesus Christ, man.
Don't really like rats, if I'm honest.
What about Chefs?
Chefs I'm okay with.
So
Chefs I generally like, especially if they're making pizza.
Yeah, so I think a rat chef then is going to end up at around 6 out of 10 on your rankings. If
I
you
suppose
combine
so.
the two.
Yeah. I'm open to it. It's not high on my list of priorities.
But then you also had Superbad as well.
We should get around to that at some point.
I Am McLovin, funniest shit ever.
Funniest shit I've seen.
Funniest shit I've seen.
It's got an Australian. No, it's a Hawaiian driver's license.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Hot Fuzz as well was 2007.
Nice.
And a little movie called Spider-Man 3.
Oh, which is a dance musical.
Which is a dance musical. I was talking about this the other day. We should do an episode where we watch all three of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies because they are romance heavy.
They are, yeah. Which I think is something I really appreciated about them at the time.
Yes, yeah, they really dived into the relationship of Peter and Mary Jane in a way that very few superhero movies do. So yeah, I stand those films. I think they're great.
Yeah, especially the first one with the Chad Kroeger song.
Yeah, exactly. But then we also had Knocked Up in 2007. So it kind of showcases the direction that sort of romantic comedies we're going to go in, sort of.
That's quite a good range of films. Interestingly, I think almost this is just before the financial crash as well. You got to think before the credit crunch and all of that stuff. So really, it was probably a lot easier to get a film made at the time, and people were taking more risks in a way. You know, it's not the same as the Netflix churn, which we always end up comparing things to now to sort of bring things back to the present. But it's an interesting time, and a lot of the films like this that come out of it are good because they're made by good people and have a lot of great actors in them and have things like music by Adam Schlesinger, where actually you look at this film and you think, if you haven't seen it, you're thinking it's probably just some generic rom-com from the mid to late 2000s, but actually it is a slight step above that and is worth your time. And even though it's the kind of thing that looks like it's going to be rubbish, it's actually pretty good for those reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And if you wanted a chance, if you wanted an indicator of how many risks people were willing to take for movies released in 2007, this is before we started truly churning out just Marvel movie sequel after Marvel movie sequel, for instance.
Yeah.
Someone paid Michael Haneke to remake one of his most brutal movies in English with no real other changes, because it's the year that his remake of his own film Funny Games came out, which is both the least useful remake and one of the most interesting sort of things to appear. Have you ever seen either Funny Games? It's probably the least Patty Johnston movie. It's the least Patty Johnston movie there's ever been. So basically, these two people break into a family's house, and then torture and kill them. And the whole point of it is it's a metaphor of basically saying to the audience, "You watching this, you hogs, you sick hogs." And that's kind of the whole point. It's all about
right.
It's all about.
Is it slightly towards the Lars von Trier end of the spectrum?
Yeah, but it is more intelligent than anything Lars von Trier's ever made. It's very much a sort of a critiquing people who watch violent movies. If you got your rocks off watching the Saw films, Michael Haneke hates you, is basically the message.
Right.
And so they're very interesting. But yeah, so he made Funny Games back in 1997. And then basically a decade later, he was like, I'm going to make exactly the same movie, but in English. And just did it.
Right.
You're right, actually. It is a kind of era before the financial crash and before all of the issues that came out of that. And there was this real step back, wasn't there, in terms of being safer with films. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I've never really thought about it that way, but it's, you see that real divergence of thought and divergence of movie types back then. And then it did get reeled in and things did become a little bit more conservative. When are you going to let Michael Haneke remake one of his movies in another language? Come on, Hollywood.
Yeah. And that's not to say that Music and Lyrics isn't basically a conservative film, because it is. It's not dangerous. There's nothing edgy about it, but it comes from a different time, and I think that's interesting, and is something that's actually enjoyable to watch. Or maybe I just like looking at people listening to music on a Discman, because that's what I used to do.
Yeah, I want to see Michael Haneke remaking Music and Lyrics.
I think if you dislike Hugh Grant, then this is not a film for you.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It is a Hugh Grant heavy movie, and he is full on Hugh Grant in this film as well.
Yeah, but if you like Hugh Grant and you haven't seen it, then it's a treat.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it.
It is.
There are lines like, Can I be honest with you? And he says, of course not. You're my manager. I would have to fire you on the spot.
Yes, which
is a very Hugh Grant line.
I like how Hugh Grant's movie career has gone from bookstore owner to prime minister to songwriter. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, the script is very focused around his style of humor, and I think it works very well, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So whoever wrote it, did our man Mark Lawrence also write it?
Yes,
he did. So fair play to him. I think he knew what he was working with.
Yes.
So good for you. Good for you, Mark Lawrence.
Yeah. So have you got anything else you'd like to say about music?
No, I think we've covered everything, haven't we? It's a fun little film from the mid to late 2000s with fun songs by Adam Schlesinger. God rest his soul.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So just a little bit of trivia from me before we wrap up. So as a child, Hugh Grant took piano lessons from Andrew Lloyd Webber's mother.
Wow.
But at some point he stopped and forgot what he'd learnt. But because of him doing this movie, he taught himself how to play certain bits of it so that they could show his hands playing the piano, which is nice.
Nice. I mean, it's no Ryan Gosling in La La Land, obviously, but
white man saves jazz.
Yeah, exactly, with his magical hands.
Oh, I hated that film so much. Then you've got
listen to episode. It's like episode 4 of
it's
this
very
show or
early
something.
on, isn't
Yeah.
it? You've got obviously, previously mentioned this was Hayley Bennett's feature film debut, and I think did a bang up job. Go and watch other stuff she's been in. She's been in good stuff.
Yeah, she's very good.
And also some of his dance moves are similar to his dance moves in Love Actually. When he's dancing,
I thought you were going to say
around.
similar to his dance moves in real life.
Similar to his dance moves in real life. You ever catch Hugh Grant on the dance floor? That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. But yes, he was definitely channeling Hugh Grant in Love Actually.
Yes.
By being Hugh Grant in music and lyrics.
For sure. And a little Adam Sandler fact for you. He has the same birthday as Hugh Grant.
No way.
September the 9th, and obviously both of them have starred with Drew Barrymore in films.
Of course, yeah. Does that mean we can make September our Adam Sandler month?
Maybe,
Sandtember.
yeah. If nothing else comes up, we'll do Sandtember.
I still think Sandluary is a funnier month, but that month has passed. So.
It is funnier, but it's also going to be a proper mouthful to say, which kind of makes me want to do it more. Sandluary.
Yeah, I like that. Sandluary.
Oh dear. But yeah, right. How are we gonna rank this bad boy?
Let's see. How many years has it been since you had a hit in the charts as Hugh Grant? Assuming you're in this situation, you're the washed up singer who hasn't had a chart song. How many years has it been?
So it's been a solid 12 years since my last hit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I'm in a similar place. 6 out of 10, 12 out of 20. It does what it says on the tin, but there's a lot to like about it and a lot of fun and engaging stuff. So, put it on for an easy watch. Why not?
Yeah, it's a comfortable movie, isn't it? You're not gonna feel disheartened by this film, but it's also not going to change your life, is it?
No. But avoid it if you hate Hugh Grant.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely do that. Right. So up next, I didn't come in.
It's your choice.
It is my choice. I didn't come into this with a choice of my own, which is because I've had a monster week and I've not been able to think of anything, but I have decided on something. So you have a choice between an animated movie or an animated movie. So animated movie 1 or animated movie 2.
Oh, well, that's not really a choice, is it? That's a flip of the coin. Or do you mean an animated movie?
No, I mean an animated movie. Animated movie.
Okay. Animated movie. I'll take animated movie 2.
Oh, so unfortunately you've missed out on Ratatouille. I was going to get you to fill in that
Did you just
void.
add that one in there because it came up during this show?
I did, yes. But another iconic animated movie also came out in 2007. Bee Movie.
Oh my god. The film that is the most memed film of all time.
The most meme filmed of all time. Jerry Seinfeld is a bee.
Jerry Seinfeld's masterpiece.
There's a bee called Barry B. Benson. Yeah, that's what we're watching. Thank you for choosing movie 2, because I've never seen it, even though it's so heavily memed.
Yeah, I've never seen it either, strangely.
That actually does surprise me. It seems like exactly the kind of movie you'd watch.
Yeah, maybe if it's no good, we'll have to fire Jerry Seinfeld from the cast of our forthcoming film, Lit Men.
Yes, exactly. We'll have to kick him out, replace him with Hugh Grant.
Hey, he'd do a great job.
He would do a great job.
He can do lit.
Yeah, he could do lit and he can do men, so he's a perfect choice.
Yeah, he is a lit man.
Lit Man. That's the
Right.
prequel, Lit Man.
Oh, and it's just him
Yeah,
before he finds his buddies.
yeah, exactly.
Very good. Oh, I'm quite excited about that. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm sad that I haven't forced you to fill in the gap in your Pixar library, but at the same time, B movie. Come on.
At the same time, B movie. B movie. That's the theme tune. So thanks a lot for tuning in. We really, really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed music and or lyrics. Hopefully both at the same time. You can find us on Twitter at BigBoysDon'tPod. You can get in touch with us on the email, bigboysdon'tcrypodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Do you like music and or lyrics?
Yeah, what do you prefer, music or lyrics?
Yeah, you can only pick one.
Yeah, one or the other. What would you do? Would you go with lyricless music or musicless lyrics?
Yeah, we want to know. We'll run an important poll. And please remember to rate, comment and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Helps more people find the show, etc. But thanks a lot for listening in. You're very good and we love you. And we'll be back next week to talk about B-Movie.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Fuck's sake, Paddy.